I will go ahead and call us to order. And we'll start with roll call. And so if you would start with you.
I'm Barb Stone and I'm here.
Yep, Joe Magruder here. Lexi O'Brien here.
John Buck here.
Brandy Grant here.
David Cosgrove here.
Emerson Smith here. Vincent Service here.
And do we have anyone online?
No.
No, okay. Well, so we have the two newest members here. That's great. Because we were gonna do a little overview of some of the past. Let's see. Let me open up our agenda. And my printer broke down just as I was getting ready to clean up for everybody. So we've got the roll call. We had two sets of minutes, and this is going so far back into the past. The first one was from June, and we did look at them at the last time we met, but we had a small change to it. And has everyone had a chance to look at it? Do we approve it? You can't. You
I
weren't
know.
here.
She's
But I
shaking
looked,
her head.
but I read them. Okay,
Mhm.
very good. So can I get someone to move that we approve it?
Yeah, I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, and then we have the July minutes. And that meeting, let's see, I can only open one thing at a time on my phone here. I have the
Lexi,
right-
can you call everybody to vote on the June ones first?
Oh, yes, you're right. There's only a couple people who
Everybody.
were here, so everyone who wishes to read the June meeting minutes? Aye. Okay, that's good. And now we have the July minutes. And, we have a second to look at. Howdy, John.
Hey, Lex.
We have John Sauter here now. I'm so glad you could make it.
Me too.
All right, so, and that was the meeting where we had a discussion of Emerson and some, about the PCEB. And we noted some website updates. I've read through it. I didn't see anything that needed to be changed, so I will move that we approve the July minutes. Is there anybody that seconds it?
I will second.
Everyone who approves of the July minutes, who was here? And I hear if you approve it.
Yeah, approved.
All right. So we've got June and July minutes approved.
How do we do? Really good.
All right. So now we can get into, and this is kind of a standard sequence that we follow for those of you that are new. We like to start getting updates from Chief of Police and Mrs. Fitz. Say your last name again.
Aceves.
Aceves.
Yes.
But before we do that, should we go around and introduce each other?
Yes.
Because we don't have names and faces yet. So I'll start. I'm Lexi O'Brien. I'm chair of the PCB, and I've been on the board for, I think this is going on 3 years. I don't even know when the terms are over, but it's been a while. So, John?
I'm John Buck. I work as Dean of Students at Webster University, and I've been, I think I'm close to you, probably done my third year.
I'm Brandy Grant. I'm originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been in Seattle, Washington for the last 10 years, and I'm the former Seattle Police Department Community Police Commissioner. And so I'm a resident of Webster Groves now, and it's just felt like a natural fit for me to be a part of.
What's your last name again?
Grant.
Just how it sounds.
Yes, got
I
a little
was trying
accent.
to write it and I was.
Sorry.
Might have an H in there. Great.
Grant.
Thank you.
I'm David Cosgrove, live over on Newport with my wife and daughter, an attorney in Clayton, and I'm one of the newest board members.
John Sauter. I live over, and now I'm a Webster resident. I live over in on Big Bend. And my wife and I own Leopard Boutique.
And I am also taking the turn.
My name is Emerson Smith. Down the city council for PCD.
Vince Aceves, Chief of Police.
Herb Strang. I'm just a resident.
Oh, you're not just good. No, I'm Jill Magruder. I've been on the board for about a year and a half now. I'm a resident, my day job, I do environmental and social governance reporting for the Signet.
All right, now we can turn it over to Vince and he can tell us what's the latest from the police department.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you guys a general overview. So, Brandy and David, you guys are new to this group. I just completed my 90th day in my position. I'm not sure. We haven't met before, so I'll just give you a real quick overview. Come from Chicago, 25 years of law enforcement experience. I was out of law enforcement. I retired for 2 years. Worked for Cook County Emergency Management up in Chicago. But I really miss law enforcement, and I found myself back in law enforcement in this organization. Brought my family with, so that should show you the level of investment that I put into this 15 and 12-year-old daughters and my wife, who's also retired from law enforcement. So now I've been here for a little bit over 3 months. I've met with this group several times, and as far as things that are going on in our organization, I sat down with all of our employees individually for about an hour each, asked them a bunch of questions about what's important for them. What do we need to do better in our organization? How can we be more closely aligned with the community? And follow that up with an anonymous survey to try to make sure that people who were reticent to speak to me in person maybe felt more comfortable in an anonymous platform. Got a lot of great information, and that information I took it, analyzed it, synthesized it, and we're now using that to drive us forward. I just made some substantive change in our organizational structure, created a new position, a deputy chief or an assistant chief of police, Eric Weimer, Webster Groves residents, grew up in Webster Groves, currently raising his family here. Great guy, great move, really strengthens our organization. There's some other movement coming as well. And so that's generally what we do. That's a higher level. I expect there to be some more organizational change over the next few months. In addition to that, for me personally, specifically as the chief of police, now's the opportunity that I'm going to have to get out in the community and create more relationships and collaborations. I've been fortunate. Emerson's kind of been guiding me along in that regard. I've made a lot of connections in North Webster, and we're hoping that as we move into 25, that those connections and collaborations manifest in some really great things for the community. So that's where we are as an organization. And then we've had several outdoor events. Just had Jazz Fest. I don't know if you guys had a chance to go to that this week. But you may have noticed my personnel out there squared away, the men and women of Webster Groves Police Department. We approach all those outdoor events with the highest degree of professionalism, because we live in a crazy world. We have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to keep all the residents safe, all business owners safe. And there's a lot that goes into that behind the scenes. So great event, got a lot of great feedback on it. We have another event coming up this weekend, pickleball. You guys like the pickleball? It's on Saturday. It's from 10 to 4 over in, what's it called? What's that?
Crossing.
Crossing. I learned this terminology. We got a couple races coming up, 5K, a turkey trot, and a couple other things, but we plan for all those things as well, because, anytime you get, 1,000 or more people in a close geographic area, there's always a potential for issues. So we want to make sure you're doing everything you can. That's our responsibility. We're going to continue to do that, and I'm going to continue to be a great partner in here. And I hope we have some great discussion today. You guys are new. Do you have any questions of me? I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Were you sworn?
Mm-hmm.
You were. And so what did you do before you were prior to being in charge of community police?
Before that, I was doing legislative work around gun violence prevention.
Okay.
I helped write some pretty significant bills for the state of Washington
Okay.
to protect our young people.
Yeah.
Specifically, but no, it just kind of was naturally evolving. I had moved there, much like I'm moving here, and wanted to be a part of like systemic change. And I figured the best way to do it was be on the inside, so, as a community member, so, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Thanks, guys.
Question for you.
Yes.
That new position you created, what is that position responsible for? What is it doing? Or they, he, she, it?
So it's Eric Weimer is the person in that position. He's an assistant chief of police. So in addition to any responsibilities that a police officer would have or a police supervisor would have, Eric also works on, so a couple things. Eric's role is designed to be sort of the position that will eventually succeed me. So we have to have a succession, continuity of command. So Eric will act in my stead if in my absence, first and foremost. Secondly, we're preparing him to take my position because I could be gone tomorrow if something happens. 55 years old. You don't want to just rely on luck. It's a biased organization. And then we have enough administrative, operational, and other responsibilities, whether it's legal mandates, training, equipment. Law enforcement is a lot different than it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 25 years ago. So there are any number of projects that are going in our organization at any given time where Eric's going to have enough administrative responsibility and oversight responsibility to make sure we're pushing these things forward and we're staying compliant with all the things we need to be compliant. And additionally, I'm glad you asked that question because I forgot to mention this. I've really been looking at our training program, putting a critical lens to our training program. And I'm hoping that next year we can do some things a little bit differently as an organization to emphasize getting a greater degree of training for our men. So, and Eric's going to be tied into that.
Is it, you mind if I add, is it being focused on a certain area or at this point, do you know, you just know it needed updating or?
Well, when you talk about training in law enforcement, one of the first things you're always looking at is liabilities, right? Those are the things we're going to concentrate on. You already are aware of a lot of the things that we currently concentrate on in terms of our interactions with the community, interacting with people who are experiencing crises, and then just generally understanding that as a law enforcement organization, the liabilities are really where we have to focus a lot of our attention. Anytime you talk about use of force, we have to make sure our people are trained to the ultimate level so that we're making great decisions. We never want to use force, but we want to make sure that if we have to use force, that we're doing it under circumstances where our officers have been prepared for those situations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
I also saw there's a coffee chat coming up.
Yeah.
That was posted. Will that be a regular thing? Is that kind of just part of maybe your 90+ days of getting to know the community?
Yeah, so one of my staff, and you talking about the coffee with the cop thing?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's next week. So one of my staff members mentioned that they had done that previously, but after COVID they stopped.
Yeah.
And he asked me if I wanted him to set it up again. I asked him, please do that. I'm hoping that we get some good participation in that.
Mhm.
And I was pretty intentional about the way I asked him to put that out. I didn't want people to feel like they were going to come and have to listen to me speak because I'm not a great speaker, number one. Number two, that's more about us coming in there and interacting with the community and hearing what the community has to say.
Yeah.
So I want people to feel comfortable and understand that it's their platform.
That's great. I think that's part of what we're trying to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I can expect to see you guys there.
You betcha. What is the date of it?
The second, right? I want to say it's October 2nd.
His birthday.
When is the first Wednesday, I think?
Is it Wednesday or Tuesday?
Let me confirm.
We're all like.
Facebook
Wednesday,
tells me
yeah.
I'm one of your top fans on Facebook, the police department.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, the second 9 to 11 at Panera.
Okay. That's good. See you there.
All right.
Chief, I have a question. Are there any community advisory committees amongst the department as far as like the different demographics?
Can you be more specific?
Yeah, so a perfect example, there was like African American Advisory Council for like community members. It was like a LGBTQ, like are there different community advisory councils amongst the department so community members can come and have conversations about concerns or things that are coming up or hear about like new trainings, new tactics that you guys are rolling out or anything like that?
Within the structure of our police department?
Yes, sir.
No, I think this is probably the closest thing that we have to go through.
Okay.
This would be that conduit.
Okay.
And I think that's absolutely one of our aspirations is that
Okay.
we would start to generate that kind of interest
Got it.
and get it. So I guess we can segue then to, our next topic. So I'm just gonna put it out there. The PCEB has been around since 2019. It was established by an ordinance and its first meeting was held in May. It was with a lot of inspiration from an organization called the Alliance for Interracial Dignity. And when you have a chance to open up my email, there were several things that were linked. And so obviously you didn't have time to read them and we're not going to go over it all tonight because it's a lot of detail. But Emerson, I believe you were a founding member of the Alliance. And so perhaps you could very briefly just give a little bit of background about perhaps how the Alliance saw that, because they gave a lot of input to the city council, I thought, about some of the things they'd like to see. You maybe know more about the genesis of
As
it.
far as the PCEB,
Yes.
well, when we first organized the Alliance for Interracial Dignity, it was more focused on the school district. I was still a member of the Board of Education, and it was pretty much the superintendents that are at risk, and some principals, and some of the administrative staff. We didn't have too many neighbors at that time or community members as part of it. Just trying to close the gap with learning with us, with the doing African Americans and the other school population, making sure that we were actually looking at the curriculum based items for everybody, because curriculum for me might be a little bit different for others. It was a time it was trying to a school district, they said in whole, they were putting pressures, or not pressures, I take that back. They were putting different assignments on kids, go home and research this on your computer at home and bring back a report in a couple of days. One, what makes you think I got a computer? Two, what makes you think I got internet? And that's what we found, that those things was not there. We also took every employee of the school districts, from the custodial staff, cafeteria workers, all the way up to the Board of Education, to social justice training. So that was a big thing. We actually assisted University City with their social justice training, what we got out of it. And then from there, it expanded with some of the current individuals that we have. The Alliance would pull together the history of Northwestern. Northwestern is basically, at that time was African American, and we pulled in a lot of the old, I call them old, but they were old, students of Douglas School. And just in my church alone, it was over 25 of them alone was students of Douglas. And all that history, we brought all that history up so that we can make sure we didn't lose it. A lot of it was at the Historical Society and the West Rocket Ministries. And you find it in different parts of the high school as well. So it has grown since then, you know, because it's continued to grow, and then I had stopped the day-to-day, not the day-to-day, but the being part of the organization because I moved on to different things, but still a member in different things. So it was something that was needed. And then with the you'll see in Lexi's email how the PCEB was started and why it was started. So, but that's pretty much it. It was the start of the social justice movement inside of Webster Groves. Very good following, and as always, come to the meeting, but when it came to action, there was nobody around to make action happen. So, but it was we still have a good effort. Anybody got any questions about that?
So then it gets into more current events. So this is the 10-year anniversary since Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson and the protests that got international coverage. And then just a few years later, there were another series of protests around the trial of an officer who was charged in the death of Anthony Lamar Smith. And this is where I started to have more of a personal awareness. I had little children before then. So that period of unrest, and also a period of, I think, a lot of increasing awareness of people that I lived here in the suburbs of Webster and wasn't aware of what's it like to live in St. Louis City or in Ferguson, and what's it like to be, you know, a person of color who lives in, you know, whatever the housing, the subdivision that you're in. And there was a lot of really unfortunate incidences that happened. A lot of arrests that happened that were later questioned, suits that were filed, and definitely some decisions where there had been improper behavior on the part of the St. Louis police, and others, because there were always various departments. When you have a lot of people gathering, there's risk, there's danger, and you have to be prepared for that. So there's that environment going on. And a lot of young people were very aware and disturbed, and I'm certain that they were also frightened too, regardless of where they lived. You just see that, and this shouldn't happen. So I had attended an event that some high school students at Webster had organized, and they had it at Blackburn Park. And they were talking about incidents that were very personal to them. They weren't the kind of thing that makes the night news. It was just, it was cases where they were treated differently than someone of another color might have been, or a case where there was anti-Semitic graffiti put on a sidewalk and the community reaction to it wasn't seen as strong enough. And I know that also Webster University students had brought concerns. I'd been to events at the Alliance where they came and spoke. And John, you might be, you know, I would assume as Dean of Students, maybe aware of, you know, of that as an ongoing thing, but just knowing that not everyone in our community feels as safe as I did as a middle-aged white woman. And so I went and I pulled some of these articles just to give people a sense, if you're not from here or it just wasn't something that you were aware of at the time. There was also, we have a Museum of African American History, the GRIAD, and there was an exhibit. I ran across an article about it which was a series of photographs of all the many very peaceful protests that happened. And those were really meaningful. That was the first time I'd ever participated in protests. So I was one of those that, you know, nothing scary happened. We had 1,000 people and it was all good. But it was happening in Webster Groves too. It's a lot quieter around here. But we did have community concern, and in 2020, the Webster School District organized a march. And so there was a little article in the Webster Kirkwood Times about the March for Change. And 1,500 people marching down the streets stretched a pretty long way. And it was a hot day, I remember that. So this is sort of the time that I felt the Peace EB was coming up in. The ordinance was written in a very, I would say, sort of rigid way. It very closely defined who could be a member, and the membership had to have different types of people. It had to be a clergy member, a representative of the school district. Now, I still think that's a good idea. We need to get that person, another person active who's got that role. So the challenge was, it was intended to be very inclusive. But what that's meant is that we have struggled to have a critical mass of people with the longevity. And I also think that we struggled with, well, what are we supposed to do? You know, the intention was to create engagement, to be a channel for communication. You talked about Brandy having advisory groups where different groups of people, all kinds of concerns and interests, could come and ask questions and raise concerns, and also being able to do that anonymously was something that our group thought was important. So one of the few things that I feel, you know, a good accomplishment that we made is we got our website built out, we got an anonymous one put up there. We've started sharing resources as we learned more about important issues in public safety and policing. We would bring in speakers to talk about it. So we did have a group that was with mental health crises, and Vincia talked about the ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and talked about community policing. We talked about you know, different public safety issues, and then we've shared that information on our website. But right now, I feel like we're kind of stuck here talking to ourselves. We've done posts in social media channels, primarily Facebook, but also Instagram. We have a high school student liaison. We need to get a person back here from that because she brought a lot of energy and perspective that I think as older people, we probably lack. So we're here at this space where I don't know that any of us are doing as much as maybe we envisioned, but I personally still feel like an organization like this needs to exist. So we've got to start somewhere and figure out how do we bring it to that next place. I hope that it's never because something bad happens here. But if it did, I would hope that the channels would be more than like 5 years ago when the only choice you had was to email the chief of police. And now at least there's another, like you can anonymously say, hey, this thing happened and I was scared and can you talk about this? And there's a way to bring concerns like that. So that's where we are as I see it in the current state. Is there anybody else from the group that wants to volunteer anything from the time you've been here on the board?
I think that's a good recap. I think the other thing I would add is that not only would we not be able to get a critical mass of people, but we were losing people that were
Yes.
2/3 of the critical mass. And now we're down 4, or down 3, or down 2. So there was a lot of turnover in addition to not having all of the slots though. Like the ordinance says, there has to be someone from Webster University. Well, I just got asked one time and said yes, but I didn't know what it was, so I'm not even sure it was serious ask for other entities that are supposed to be checking off and participating in this, so. Yeah, so it's just been hard to have forum to sidestep whatever it would be, let alone, yeah. So that has persisted as it does.
And that's not, this PCEB, I believe that the ordinance was too stringent from the beginning. You tied your hands of doing anything, you tied the people that can be part of it, you know. Other individuals want to be part of it, nope, we already got a preacher, nope, we already got somebody from the medical, nope, you know, so those are the type of things that I think was just,
It was meant to tie y'all's hands, honestly.
well, the PCEB was around that time with George Floyd and wanted to get something going and what they wanted to happen couldn't happen. They wanted to be a board where they reviewed police tactics, where they saw this arrest, they wanted to look at it, look at the any type of human resource issues with policemen, and that can't happen because, you know, it's law. So, and so I think that what they wanted to happen couldn't happen, and it got discouraged and just stopped, you know, but there's much more that can happen. It just, for whatever reason, they thought that, and I just don't understand why, you know, because they were very well versed in the law as far as human resources. And I can't tell you why a police officer left all of a sudden, just that he left. So, but I think that like I said, it's a new beginning to revamp, revise, just look at what we really want to accomplish and then go towards that goal.
One other gap that I'd like to call out is I at least felt very ill-equipped to guide what is this group doing. It was something that I read about in books, racial equity, reading voraciously, but I've never led up a group like that. And I'm not one of those marginalized groups, so I didn't know, like, how do we reach the people that we're not hearing from? And so honestly, Brandy, when I saw your background, I was like, oh my gosh, here's somebody who knows how it's been done in big cities. And so I was really thrilled that you have that background. You know, I don't have a legal background. I am a communications person. So Jill and I contributed, I think, what we could. We're communications people. We got that webpage up. But now we're really at a point that we want to do more. And I also see a great opportunity with Vince here, who is really eager to work with us. And I would love to help him, help the department make this a really great, safe community, which I think it already is, but I think we're complacent about an awful lot. And there are areas that we could improve, we could do more. And it's a case of discovering what those opportunities are.
I think you guys are gonna have a great opportunity to have a reset and not be in a position where you have to be so reactive. You can be a little bit more collaborative and preventative. And so I'm happy to be joining now where you get an opportunity to do a reset and kind of carve it out the way that you want it to be versus having a consent decree come down or ordinance where you're, as Mr. Emerson said about, you know, just having certain stipulations where people can't be a part of it. So you've been through it. Now you get to come out on the other side. And, you know, I think it's better to not be so reactive to certain situations. So I don't want to say too much because I'm new, but I'm just happy to be here. And I don't want you guys to dim your light around the things that you have done, because the fact that you even got involved is a step in the right direction.
Just so the new people know, I laid my memo of death onto the PCEB.
I read that too, and I was like, wow.
few months ago, you know, because, you know, the council, we, back in 2023, it was one of our goals to review the all of our boards and commissions and see where they're at, what they're doing. And PCEB just stood out like a light that has been standing still for a long, long time. Not to anybody's fault, because there was a lot of rolling and but I think I mentioned a couple of time the Public Safety Commission. What was the other one? Human
Rights.
Rights Commission. You know, all of that's now with the Human Rights Commission is on the drawing board now. I think if that's something that you guys want to move towards, we can get in on the ground for that, you know, and just change and be part of that. The safety, all that can go into human rights, you know, and to work with police department, the fire department, with public works. It can really be a good fit, I think, for this group. So it all depends which way you want to go, because there are a lot of people that want to be on the Human Rights Commission, but we got a group here that want to already be that, you know, just say, thank you very much. We'll keep your name on the list and let you know what's going on. But like I said, the chief will be able to give you some expert advice of what he's done in his past. But and I was in Chicago. I think it was in Chicago or either Atlanta. I can't remember. Where talking to this National League of Cities, you know, all people from all over the country, you know, and they did pull in our PCEB into public safety, because that's all it is, public safety. So that's, I think we sent that pamphlet out I gave you.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did. I did.
So, and it's, you know, I think just opportunity just to start over. I think I can tell you that the council is looking forward to seeing it, because the comments, you know, once you gave your, you know, they gave it the update, and somebody reached up, can they do that again last year? You report last, you know, and this really haven't moved. So we just, I think it's a time to, you know, make a change.
Well, I'd like to throw in too, the way I came to this board is I had heard the name and said, oh, that sounds police community engagement. Well, that's awesome. So let me come and sit around the edges, which I did for almost a year, and just listen to people. And I think, and I mean, outside of maybe one or two others, I was pretty much by myself. And I wanted to say, I would love to get four of my friends who I know are also passionate about this, just come and sit here, because it was a big unknown. What are you guys doing? You know, how does that affect me? Well, let me tell you, or come and give your ideas. But it was just a matter of getting those people, or being encouraged maybe to bring those people in to sit through. Who wants to sit through an hour meeting on a Tuesday night? They serve donuts. Now, I don't know, but you know, whatever the motive is to get people to come and then be engaged and feel like I have input right here. You know, I don't have to have a big session where I work or anything like that. And I love what the chief said in the beginning. I want to start getting out to people. You know, when I walk down my street and I know there's a certain person there, and I can knock on the door and say, hey, and it could be 2 o'clock, it could be 10 o'clock in the morning, you know, if you know if they have kids or not, and just say, and just talk to them. You know, I'm part of this group. We're having a meeting. Or do you have any concerns that I can bring? Oh, I can't say that the way you did. Can you come and talk about it? But I think it's that little bit of encouragement. People are overwhelmed today. And our world is, somebody said it, nuts. You know, we're kind of going crazy in a lot of different areas. But to get people individually to come or to speak or to write or to do something, it's that little hook. So yeah, it's a reset, but not really. You know, I don't know about memo of death. You called it that, we didn't, but I
There
know.
was a bucket of ice water, that's for sure.
I was on board with it.
It's that guy, get rid of him, yeah, you know.
And one of the things that, the idea, I can tell you, I've been in Webster over 43 years. And getting people to come to something has always been difficult. But offering people something, with the new, hey, come to the rec center and get your firearm. Come to the rec center and do this, giving away something, and you believe me, they'll come, but just saying, come listen to something about street safety. Yeah. And I'm saying every month, what think about it? Yeah, every month we buy a whole page of the Webster Kirkwood Times. And not saying that we can put something in there about what's going on at whatever we call it, and say, here. And I think it'll be a big push.
Yeah, if I could chime in a little bit, I think like that's been the issue, and we've been, I think trying to think of ways to reach out to folks, but maybe overthinking it too. I just don't know that people are attentive on this topic right now because there isn't, some big national story. And I think that's why I also wouldn't want to lose this avenue, because we should be proactive. That word you used, Brandy, I think, I don't like when I think of some of the other boards and commissions, thinking like traffic, for example, they're bringing suggested changes to the city council, right? Like, and maybe acting as an extension.
Well, just so that you know,
Yeah.
Traffic Commission went through the same thing that we're going through now.
Oh, yeah,
You
okay.
Put up
They
and
are-
shut up, bring something to the table.
Yeah,
Matter of fact, I don't think they met for like a whole year.
oh, okay, so not a great example, okay, but,
But they did, they're right
Yeah.
now, and they was, here at the, meeting again this early this morning. Business meeting,
Yeah.
Old Webster,
yeah.
and they brought in some things that they're going to.
Yeah, like I guess that's like part of our objective, I feel like, should be to bring ideas of, how we can improve policy and practices as it relates to community policing and engagement. And acting as an extension of your team, like where can we help you create those relationships in the community, and ultimately bring suggestions up to city council level, but I think that's where, if we don't have that community feedback and what that should be, like that's where we're stuck. We're stuck at the very first step in what are those policy changes we need, what needs to change. I think we're just stuck there because we don't know as this small group, and we're not hearing from others in the community.
It all depends on what direction the PCEB want to go in. So.
I'd love to chime in.
Please
Yeah.
do.
Just
Absolutely.
taking everything in. I appreciate the input from everybody here. I worked for an organization previously. We had about 300 officers in it. Seattle's a little larger than that, but the area I worked in was very busy area. And the way that we did what you're describing is we went out and did it in the community. And I'm not suggesting that I know I kind of mentioned this to you guys before, but you definitely have the background to understand being in here versus setting something up out in the community, getting people to come, whether it's coffee with a cop or whatever else we call it, trauma-informed policing, ACEs awareness, or just, how about a community police meeting, right? Which, that was part of my platform to get this job, right? To talk about things that I did running that in addition to all my other responsibilities. I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet because I'm waiting to see where you guys end up in terms of what you want to do and if what I want to do, if the things naturally nest into to one another. And if they do, then let's do that. But I don't mean to sound arrogant or dismissive, but getting out there and doing it as opposed to being in here talking about it, I think that's the best way to approach it. That's my opinion.
How do we get out there and do it?
We have all these ideas.
Yeah.
Let's focus on, okay, what's the most practical? What's the easiest, lowest hanging fruit where we can start off and get a win, right? What are people what's something that people want to talk about? What's something that people in the community want to talk about? I don't know. Is it parking? Is it access to certain services? I don't know. Pick one of the above. And then where can we do this and where can we get the most bang for our buck? Right? And then you create your agenda. And now you have your meeting, and now you have your foundation, and you have your group of core people that are going to come back and are going to keep spreading that word. That's how we started it. And it grew from something that simple into something that was huge. And it was so impactful that our gang homicide numbers and our gang shootings were reduced over time by 90%, just by virtue of doing those things. We don't have the same dynamics here. You guys are trying to do something a little bit different. We don't have the same dynamics in terms of complaints against police, violent crime. But we do have people in the Webster Groves population that we want to reach. And we can't do it from in here. So you guys know better than I do, but what's going to work. Tell me, I'll come along and I'll bring what I have, and I'll be part of this collaboration. And we got Brandy here now. She was doing it at a high level, so.
Yeah. The memo of death that you guys are calling it or whatever, I actually appreciated, I appreciated being able to read through it, but I want to tell you all, I think you might be overthinking it a little bit. What Chief did not pull back on and just like really hone in, because I know your work, I have followed you, I know what you've done at your other department, is that outreach. We're small enough, there's enough of us where we should literally be assigned to certain aspects of the neighborhood. There should be community events that we go to. And sometimes it's just literally being there. And as you introduce yourself and you walk around, you tell them the board that you're a part of, a little bit about what we do. And the more we attend things and we go to functions, we can start to kind of talk to folks and kind of get a feel of what's going on. There's community needs assessments that can be done. Because what you don't want to do is come inside of this meeting and come up with things that we feel like we think are needed versus what's actually needed. There was a lot of inflating issues. I'm just going to speak as a Black woman, the George Floyd situation. Many of us, I'm going to speak for Seattle specifically, there was so much of a reactionary response that we did not think about the actual officers that we had in the city of Seattle. We thought about policing as a whole and the problems that we had across the United States versus being like, you know what? Are officers really that horrible? Do we have a lot of the problems that are being not sensationalized, actually being discussed in the news? We moved too quickly. We got the Department of Justice involved. We had a lot of people that were dictating to us what we needed to do. And we lost a lot of amazing officers, and the ones that we probably didn't need hung around forever, right? And so to say that, the reason why I was really excited about coming here, like you said, was the engagement part, right? The collaboration part, being able to work with somebody. I would just recommend us taking like a step back and discussing some of the planning stuff. What's the mission? What's the purpose? What's the vision? Small baby steps. What do we want to accomplish? Who are we speaking to? And just making sure that it is specific to Webster Groves. Small, granular, easy, bite-sized. There's so much knowledge around this table. I heard you say earlier, oh, you're just a resident. No, you are a resident. You're not just a resident. It's important that your voice is here. But I just think it's important, the memo that you sent, I think that's a really valid point. If council is asking, what are we doing? I think a refresh and a restart of being like, hey, we got some new folks at the table. We would like to, I don't know if it's being folded into another commission necessarily, but I'm on board with whatever you all want to do. But I think you should give yourselves an opportunity to formulate a plan. And before you can actually do that, we need to be on the same page about what we want to accomplish as a group. And then we need to ask the people that are in this community, what would they want from this group? Webster Groves, not anywhere else, just this community. And we go from there. And literally my whole year, the first year I was a commissioner, similar to the roles that you all were in, it was going to festivals, carnivals, donuts and pops. I went on ride-alongs. I actually got to go to the range. I got to go to their less lethal weapons demonstrations. I went to crowd control management. I could not feel like I wanted to be an expert on something that I actually had not experienced, because it wasn't my job to tell someone who had the experience, the education, the background, putting their lives on the line every day, how to improve their job if I didn't understand the job. So I think it's a bunch of different layers to it. So to me, I think it would just be really important for us to have some form of a planning session and figure out what is it that we actually want to accomplish from being a part of this. And for those of us that might not feel like this is the best group to do that with, or it doesn't feel like it's accomplishing anything, then maybe we change the chemistry of who's a part of the group. But I don't think there's anything wrong with being like, let's do a restart. I really don't. But before you do that, I think there just needs to be some really candid conversations about what it is that you actually want to do, and then coming up with what's our game plan for getting that done. And it can be really, really small. It can be really small. And I mean, as simple as, and Chief, I appreciate you saying it, it could be, hey, every other month, we decided that, September was our planning session, October, we're out in committee, November, planning session or break because it's the holidays, December, rotate it. But there's enough of you around this table for us to be able to be at community events or be places where set up little tables, pass out stuff, partner with the officers and whatever the chief is doing where he sees that it would be helpful for us to be a part of. But definitely not having two different agendas, and definitely not having however many people are around this table, different agendas, because that is the biggest downfall of any commission when people are not in alignment about what's going on.
I wanted to throw in, and this may seem like the other end of the train, but when you said low hanging fruit, I love that, because we know what that is. That's just an easy win. And I thought of something that might fit into that category. I'll just throw it out real quick as an example. We have a newspaper, and in there are people, the mailbag. People write things, not everything in there, but there are some things that are pointing to a specific issue. Case in point, parking, a high school and the residents over, I don't know if it's Joy or Mason or one of those streets. And I think it was last year. And there was a little group in the neighborhood that were just like, this is our street. This street is in front of our house. We can't park there, and the kids are coming and parking there all day. And then when they, and I thought, that would be something. There was a group and they would write their little letters and they kind of all sign it, 8, 10 of them, whatever. I thought, now that would be something that might be a low hanging fruit where we could go to one of their meetings, get involved with them and share, some ideas. How can we fix this? So it'd be a win-win.
Traffic Advisory Commission,
Oh,
that's their fruit.
wrong group. See, but when we divide it so rigidly, maybe we'd have some,
But that issue has been going on since 1994. That's the 93 or 94. About the school kids parking in the neighborhood, taking up the parking space.
That school's been there for
That's what happens with
60, 70 years.
big places with lots of people.
Yeah, and it's better now because Webster got their own parking garage. The next, they improved their parking. This high school, we created a whole nother parking spaces, and
Well,
so.
and I don't really wanna solve the issue.
No, I'm just saying that
Using
it's-
that as an example
Yeah.
of something that we see in the paper that, you know, we could say, hey, this is something that we could do, or I'll do it. You wanna come with me to this meeting? Just an idea.
When Jill first came on, we had almost a whole different set of people, but John was here. And we went through this visioning exercise, and Barb, you were here observing that.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was really helpful, like we did get into alignment about this is what we wanna be. And then the council had reviewed the ordinance, and what they came out with was something that was so darn close to what we were coming towards already as a group, that it was just like, all right, they synthesized it this way, and so we were all in alignment. Then we lost half the people, because some of them were originals, and it was time for them to move on to other things, and so we had 3 more people. But one of the things that I observed, I come at this from I'm thinking about when I was teaching, and I taught composition, and you could spend a lot of time writing your thesis and figuring out what it is. But damn, sometimes it's just a lot easier to pick one fact, one topic, and write that paragraph. And so, you know, I agree, we've got to all be on the same page, but sometimes picking a tactic and say, let's do this might be good. The challenge is sometimes when they're gonna get somebody's attention, like something that really caught me was the controversy that arose over KVC, which is it's a behavioral health organization. They serve youth. There is a real need in St. Louis for mental health care in general, especially for youth and especially for inpatient care. And so this was something that organization was pairing up with children's hospitals, very well respected in St. Louis, but there was resistance from people in the local community right across the street, apprehension about what is that going to mean for my neighborhood. And I thought, well, there's a topic that's really going to get people interested. But then I thought, oh my God, that's going to turn into one of those things like what was the housing development they were going to put on it, where there's like, oh my God, that's going to get ugly. So, it is, I think, choosing something that is not going to put you in the middle of controversy, that is more of a win-win kind of proposition. And so I'm not sure, I don't think we're going to come to what is that answer today, but yeah, I would love to do that too. John, let's hear from you, and then
Oh, I'm not saying anything.
you can
I'm
just listen, you're gonna have to put you on
taking it
the-
all in.
Yeah, take it all in, and then you can talk to us next meeting.
I was just thinking, I saw on the agenda SWOT analysis, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's a real helpful tool for getting ideas out on a board and talking about, first off, I'm with, when Emerson brought this idea up in the first place, I see it as an opportunity, right? To redefine ourselves and to find something that the community needs and fill that need, right? And so, the first thing I think about when I think about police community engagement is, and listening to the chief talk about, they've got different problems there than what we've got here, different issues, and where do the police touch the community the most? Like, what is that engagement? What are they responding to? What are the issues that are coming up? Is it, video cameras in the neighborhoods? Is it, what are the things that are really causing issues,
John, I'm so glad you're asking these important questions, because they really bring some practicality to these conversations. You know what I mean, some of our biggest problems in the community are, and this is going to sound crazy to you guys, but it's around complacency in the community. We have a lot of car break-ins and a lot of car thefts because people feel like we live in a bubble here. And so they just leave their key fobs in the cars unlocked, garages unlocked. And I'm not laughing because it's funny, I'm laughing because we send out so many messages on social media about this. So when I spoke earlier about low hanging fruit, like this was something that I thought about, like us setting something up, not us as us, this entity, but us as a police department saying, hey, we're gonna be at this location on this day, we're gonna be here for 1 hour, we're gonna bring refreshments, and we're gonna talk to you about how to be safe in your community, because in your neighborhood, we have all these car break-ins, we have these car thefts and car burglaries, and you know, and that would be our opportunity to reach out and touch the community. And then that would be the conduit for this body to come in. Oh, by the way, this is the engagement board, and here's what we do here. You know, and then whatever you think, like however that would fit in, whether it's a 3-question survey or hey, give us your information, and then we'll send some information to you. And now we know a little bit more about what that group that we started with, what's important to them in terms of what you guys are doing here. So I know I took a circuitous route to answer your question, but that's just those are some of the things that I've thought of that might be the quickest way to get to achieving those small victories to start gaining momentum.
So car break-ins and,
Yeah, 3 more ideas like that and we're in the game. Because I feel like that, you know, I think a lot of us have struggled with like, who should we be talking to and what should we be asking? And we kind of go, well, let's go to Brentco. Let's say, what do you want to know about policing? And people go, I don't know. I mean, they don't have any conception about what they ought to know. So if there's a half dozen, if there's 3,
So that's a broad topic.
Huh?
So that's a broad topic. What do you know about policing?
Right.
If we could break it down into a more bite-sized nugget, like, okay, what do you know about this component of policing? What do you know about that? You know, getting out and educating the community on those smaller bite-sized pieces, because law enforcement is very broad, right? But we're absolutely willing to do that and to be partners. If you guys come up with the concept, or we come up with the concept collectively, and then we just start.
And what I'm saying is that I need you to inform that process. Like, look, I've been here for 90 days.
Yeah.
Here are 4 things that we got to figure out in the next 120 days.
Yeah.
And that becomes our agenda.
well, people are interested about their cars getting broken into, right? I feel like, and my major question with that would be, what is the impression of who's committing the break-ins? I mean, in my mind, I picture local kids doing this stuff, but I don't know if that's.
It's kind of easy when the key fob is sitting right there on the
I mean,
dash.
yeah.
I mean,
Right, but I'm not walking around looking for key fobs, right?
Oh, no.
And so I'm wondering.
Well, what is it? I'm not sure what the relationship is between what your question is and what the topic is. So cars getting broken into, what is the?
Well, there's 2 ends to every
Yeah.
solution,
Yeah.
right? There's stopping people from allowing their cars to get broken into, and there's understanding the people that are breaking into cars and why there's an idea that this is a place to come to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so, kind of, is that a local
I think you
program?
just answered the question. Because this is Webster Groves and people see Webster Groves as an upscale community. So most of the people that we have caught previously are coming from the city.
Okay,
Yeah.
and see, that wasn't my assumption.
Yeah.
I thought, and maybe because I was a young punk suburban kid, I thought it was young kids, you know? And if it's not, well, that's a whole different, you know, then you're working up against the stigma.
Yeah.
That you've got to overcome in regards to that. And I feel like you could rally people behind that.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to be the place to go to break in, you know?
Yeah.
So a couple more then. So you got that, you got the car break-ins. You got, and I'm not kidding when I say this, you have a lot of people complain about golf carts. A lot of people drive golf carts in this community, and we get a lot of complaints about golf carts. I'm not kidding.
And they all want the speed limit to be 25 miles an hour everywhere so they can go everywhere.
But we have a process for that. we have rules and there's a, people have to get permitted but there are a lot of golf carts in this
Do y'all
community.
know that the?
Right.
And it's
story
growing.
behind
I don't
golf
feel
carts?
like it's gonna go the other way.
Parking
Do
in
y'all
the
know the
business.
story
district.
behind the golf course?
I've seen it, my neighbor's got one.
There was some citizens that wanted golf carts, they wanted to do it.
But the reason
I was the only one that voted no,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was the one that said, okay, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
They need to be inspected, they need to have seat belts, they need lights, they need horns, and all this stuff. And we put all that in orders, I still voted no.
Yeah.
But then, it passed, and people
Okay.
call this golf cart, and this golf cart is going up a one-way street. Call the police. What you want me to do about it? I didn't want them in the first place, And, and people realize that they can only be driven in areas that's 25 miles per hour. As soon as you cross over that, you're in a 30-mile zone. And you can't have a golf cart in there, so it's those kind of things, but that was.
Well, you
They're-
know,
they're
and
quite
it's
popular in
along
Old
that
Webster
road,
girls.
It's bicycles as well. From my understanding, and it may be wrong, but bicycles, and I'm talking about, more the hardcore bikers, not just the little kids. But I thought they were supposed to obey a stop sign,
100%.
Yeah, they are.
and I
Oh, yeah.
don't see it
Yeah.
ever. They just are going down and I'm sitting there at the stop sign going, hello.
We just got 4 things. that-
Yeah, we just,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the 4,
I got a data question when you get done, sorry.
I'm done.
Oh, well, no, just real quick, who's putting the information in our local little newspaper around the areas of crime that we do have, which I was like, oh, this is such a wonderful neighborhood, because if those are the things that we're worried about,
Yeah.
that is a breath of fresh
The
air.
report that goes in there?
Yeah, where are we getting that from?
It's from us.
It's from you guys? Okay.
and there's more
I
detailed
was
now
just
than
gonna
it
say
used
that
to
would
be.
be a
I
good
think.
place to start too, you all technically, because there's
Yeah.
a pretty good breakout of like what.
There's a lot of like small burglaries,
Car-
identity theft.
I just remember porch pirate stuff,
Yeah,
what you
Yeah.
originally said, the car theft, actually just the breaking in the cars, not actually stealing them, but like breaking into them.
Well, they don't have to break in them, they just open the door.
Well, yeah. They've been welcome to the.
Yes.
I have,
We're the low hanging fruit.
Yeah, we really
but look, just like John said, you already got, there can be safety about golf carts, there can be published, or safety about bicycle safety. The parking and business districts, we talked about that this morning.
Yeah.
In the business,
Tell me more about that because,
it's the delivery trucks,
oh,
and they
okay.
combinate parking.
So people
Oh,
who are
you can't-
customers
and
are
you can't
frustrated
see-
because Amazon's.
You make a left in the big
delivery.
truck there, you can't see
Yes.
what's coming over.
Cisco.
Let me make one clarifying point for everybody. So when we talk about all this stuff, right, you see Webster Groves, we're fortunate that we don't have a lot of violent crime. We do have crime, we don't have a lot of violent crime.
Right.
What we emphasize as an organization is providing excellent customer service. That's what I'm pushing, and that's what we're about, and that's what we'll continue to be about. And examining these quality of life issues ties into that. So that's why I'm talking about this.
Yes, there you go. So,
yeah, so I'm gonna relate to my question I was gonna ask in that, like, how do we take these things and marry it with our purpose and mission that we have of like dismantling historical racial barriers with, our police and the community, right? Like where do these come into play with that?
that's why I think everything needs to be
The reset.
reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause
We're kind of constrained by that because that was,
The
it's a
precipitator,
serious
Yeah.
national
Right.
problem
Mhm.
and.
Not
And,
necessarily.
and what happened when the PCEB started, it was always, let's go talk to the people in North Webster. I said, wait a minute, crime happens all over.
All over.
And part of a group, the North Webster Neighborhood Coalition. Why always North Webster? There's African Americans and blacks have it.
interested
Yeah,
in
and,
why
you
are
know,
those
it's-
kids shooting off fireworks in our playground, cause they messed up the new tennis court.
Yeah, Will Webster, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, even, well, I used to talk to Dale, past chief, you know, talking about drugs in North Webster. What? I asked chief about it. Chief said, they sell drugs in North Webster, but it's the kids in South Webster
They're
coming up
buying
and buying it.
And they do it down by the gazebo too,
Yeah,
or
well,
at the McDonald's.
Talking to what you were talking about earlier, maybe the biggest thing is just changing it from a one-way valve to a two-way, right? We were only thinking of the community talking to the police. Can we open it up to where it's also the police talking to the community? And then we get into the safety, we get into, but I think the key is you remain the conduit.
Yes,
Right.
it happens
Yeah.
organically. What you just asked about,
Yeah.
that happens organically when you start these conversations.
Cause if you could give those golf cart people a map of streets that they could use, they would be forever grateful, and they may not stick to it, they may move as quick as they can from one to the next, but you're at least getting it in their mind, you're putting the
Yeah.
awareness out there that this is a problem and you're talking about it, and maybe you're relieving them a little bit of BS that they're dealing with on a regular basis. And maybe we can have a thing of, talking about what needs to be on these carts, you can come and say, hey,
I was already in there.
well, but you show them, these are the little things you can buy and add on,
You're
or.
supposed to get a ticket. I mean, it's.
When you register your golf cart, you do actually get a piece of paper that has all of the information on there about where you can and can't drive it, what has to be on it and off it. So people are registering their golf carts, they're being provided the information.
First off, is that
What they
traffic
do
or
with the
police?
information,
What's that?
Is that traffic
from
or
there-
police golf carts?
who knows, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
We are.
So let's use this as an example of where I think we can go, because I think you're asking a question partly, let's not forget where we come from, what a bigger
Yeah,
image or
yeah.
purpose may be. Seems like to me on these four things, or however many we have, let's take golf carts. We have to define the problem. Like, what is the issue with golf carts? Why are people pissed about golf carts? What are the hazards about golf carts? What's the frame up the problem? And then figure out what information do we need to get so we can understand more about this, like whatever they pass out when you bring over your registration and go, what is that document? Let's check it out. And how, what does the ordinance exactly say? Let's pull that back out and look at it. And then let's figure out who else do we need to talk to get a better personal understanding of this. And we've got to create a process where we can just kind of, here's a big issue, define it, narrow it down, break it down, find what's related, find what we need, and then we can figure out, you know what? It's a waste of our damn time. Or all
Let's
in,
move
right?
forward.
And I feel like that that's one of the things that we've not really built out here either, is a process by which that we figure out, is this worthy of time and attention? But if we do something like that, 3 or 4 step process with each of these 3 or 4 ideas, it just equips us to do it better when something more serious comes up. Or we want to go down a road that is tough to go down because it's going to bring up issues that are hard to talk about, but at least we have had practice in processing through a potential issue or topic or problem that has to do about complacency or parking. And, it's just 4 things, but I think we've got to have a process that's that simple, just so we can, that's low hanging fruit for me. It doesn't matter what the topic is. It's just like, if we can knock it out in a discussion in a half an hour with 3 people leading it and coming back and reporting back, then I think we're in the game. And then we've got some experience and we've got some street cred a little bit to kind of go, is this kind of pulled together? And that helps us then reinforce, okay, let's do less golf cart shit and let's do really important stuff that's more relevant to what's happening here. But we cut our teeth on some easy things that we know just frustrate folks.
And we may get people involved.
And
They're
yeah,
like,
you
"No,
might,
I have a golf cart, so hey, I heard about these
Relatable.
guys,
Mhm.
so.
yeah, let's bring a golf cart owner to this meeting saying, go. Like,
Yeah.
what about this is awful? And then bring me going, this is why I hate golf carts, or whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like,
That person.
but you know what I mean? Like, but we can engage folks, like, hey, we're giving you 20 minutes in our meeting, come sit in the chairs right there and tell us why.
And the police can be there and we can talk about what you can and can't do. And
Yeah.
here's the policy and here's what you get. And, this is how you're expected to conduct yourself when you're operating one. Here's who can and can't operate. This is why. Questions, interaction, and then
we figure out, oh my God, this is a huge gap.
Yeah.
And then we have something to really solve. Right, because we've had a process by which we define it, we find out what the information is out there, we ask an expert or two, bring in some other points of view, and then that's a
And we go back to
process.
Jill's comment, so how does that relate to what we are now? So, or we changing our focus, so we still name ourselves PCEB. Or the other things outside of police we want to do is, because all this is safety stuff. All safety.
But Emerson, don't you feel like though there's an ecosystem where those things are interrelated anyway?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, cause I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on, well, like just traffic does that or just this entity does that. They're all interconnected. Right? And I feel like if we get too specific, then we will definitely weed ourselves out of a commission altogether.
As, when we say too specific, like,
I mean, a good example, when I came to the commission, they were like, oh, you're the gun violence girl. That has nothing to do with policing. And I was like, it doesn't? How does it not? Violence, policing, they're, how can you talk about one thing and not talk about the other? So if we're talking about golf carts, we're talking about complacency, we're talking about parking issues, things of that nature, you're talking about what's going on in your community right now. No, it's not the things that are going on the parameters, which by the way, the more prepared we are for these things, the better we'll be able to insulate the things that are going on around us.
Right.
Let's be very clear about that, because it's eventually coming. But my point is, I don't want us to be so specific. I would hope we wouldn't be so specific that we're ruling out things that we can't be a part of because it feels like it doesn't make sense. I think if a conversation comes to us where it appears that we'll be handing it off, we can still initiate the conversation if it starts out being about traffic and there's some part that we may play in it, and then we can hand it off to the commission that it belongs to. But I don't think we shut ourselves completely off from topics that are gonna come up that are a part of our ecosystem. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, the police
Oh,
touch
yeah.
a lot of those different
Yes.
things. And to
Yes,
think that we can't touch anything that might touch something else is gonna end us up where we're at right now.
right. And if
Yeah.
it seems like it's something bigger than us or that we don't need to have our hands in, then we just, we hand it off properly.
Or at least be able to explain, and here's what we didn't
And
do.
here's what, again, yes.
so here's my question. So do we want to continue calling ourselves the Police Community Engagement Board?
I like it. I still think that's what it's about.
I think
The other big thing that I was thinking of is I am so fascinated by the concept of community policing and how do you create that? And I don't think it's not all on the police to do it. I know there are certain ways that you implement it, but it's also part of the community being part of it too. And the PCEB is an extension of we're like putting, feelers out there in the community too. We are the community and we also have a connection. to
So
the
would it
police.
fit our mission and our vision and our purpose, our current purpose, mission, vision, purpose? Do we need to look at that?
See, I think
It's-
we need to leave that in the margin, right? And I think we need some actions first
No,
to get our framework, so we know what we're doing, or first we do this and we have that little framework. And at the same time, we're looking at our title, our mission, or whatever those things are. But we've just been through this huge process to define mission, vision. We started going out to the community and then we got the death notice.
I don't want you to put yourself in a position where a council will say, well, what the hell are you doing now?
Okay.
Well, but that's obvious. I mean, I think that is portraying our future work as valuable, and that's up to us. I guess I would flip it and say, I don't think there's anything about this that would compel me to have to go back and change anything. I mean, I know it's not too management consulting, but kind of form follows function here. Once we figure out what the things are we want to do, the form of how we do that is going to play out. We just might need to try a couple things more. I think the only thing that I would say we could consider revising is the strict composition of the board.
Oh, I
It
definitely-
requires a clergy person, a medical doctor, a person from the university. I mean, I think that's worthy of a side discussion, because right now I think we benefit. We've already decided like that really hemmed us in. Like this is as much as we can do,
Mhm.
and we can't get quorum for me, it's like, let's just get the people that want to do this and.
I'm saying that ain't gonna change the ordinance. I was to get that change first with the city, then we can move on these things. And then
Yeah,
work.
I think they're unparalleled because nothing that we're doing, I can see nothing that we're doing that goes against the grain of what the original ordinance says and what the goals and the vision said. I don't think we're counteracting that. It's still a question to answer, but I don't think we're derailing anything by doing this.
Okay, so Dean, I'm with you 1,000% on what you're saying, but Emerson, I'm finally picking up on what you dropped down, okay? That ordinance is gonna have to be revised. Y'all,
You have the
it ha-
authority to do what we need. to do.
we have to revise it. We can still do in tandem what you literally just laid out for us, but that ordinance has to be revised because the ordinance is literally what drives the work that we do. And if it's not about deviating from it, it sounds like we're actually going to what we've literally been saying for the last hour. We're just gonna hone in on what it is that we're gonna focus on, you know what I mean, and coming a little closer to it. But that ordinance holds up a lot of things. And I think, I know the process is there, but I think that we need to probably next meeting or some work group outside of this or whoever wants to, I can even take a stab at it and do some notes in the margin or whatever, but we're gonna have to revise it. We are.
And that could be maybe a longer term play, like that's something that we want to have drafted and bring forward in January. Right, in theory, so we could still do some of this work,
100%.
but have
I
that
don't think
run
we
in
put a
parallel.
pause. Yeah, you're right. It's not a pause.
And then we got a story, a little bit more of a story.
Mhm.
As you do this, then also be making changes to be ready to, for at least by January, because the budget process starts in January. So if there are funds that you want to request, you need something special, and then you need X amount of dollars, you can put that, request in. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Is our council that rigid that you get a great idea on January 25th? Budget has been set, that we still can't go through you and just say, hey, Emerson, can you present this to the council? I know budget has all been allocated, but do we not have the flexibility? That's what I hear.
I do budget adjustments all the time.
Flexibility, well, to make those changes. That's the rule, sorry, you can't do it,
I make adjustments, and we talked about adjustment this morning, for the business. And how they're gonna design safety signs and things of that nature. But, it has to be something that's solid. It just, I'm telling you, this council is aware of where PCB is and what it's not doing. And are we going to, can I give them enough positive information to say, I want this budget adjustment to get this done?
Sure.
But I'm just saying, I can say, here's our restart, even if you don't change the name, I mean, that's.
Emerson, what's it gonna take to convince you that this commission is gonna do something or is ready to do something? What does that look like for you? Because it sounds like to me, it's more about convincing you at this point, since you're the conduit for the council. You're our council liaison. What is it gonna take for you? What do you need to see? What do you need to hear? So these folks sitting around this table can decide whether or not that's something that they can commit to and they can do.
I would feel comfortable with, reviewing the ordinance, what changes we need to make, get all those hand-holding things out of the way. And I tell you, honestly, there was a purpose for all that, because there were some people that didn't want this commission to
Succeed.
No, that's it. We made some changes in 2022, which gave you a little bit, but it wasn't enough. And so to see that, maybe some recommendations to change the ordinance, some list of things that you want to tackle as a news. Say we reviewed our vision, mission, purpose, all that, and here it is. But believe me, the ordinance that we have should be no more than page and a half.
Yeah.
It's almost 2.5 pages now, I believe, if I remember correctly.
There's not a lot to change in here. I mean, you're going in, looking at the membership, the duties, and the membership duties and communication and transparency. If you change those three things, you could change the whole ordinance.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot of full rewriting, it's adding, like I said,
What's
about
underneath that,
taking
yeah.
it from the one-way valve to a two-way, right?
Mhm.
Instead of just informing the police, we're also informing the community of the police's needs, right?
And take out all that stuff about you need a preacher.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's about 6 or 7 lines by itself right there.
And we need to, I appreciate your question a lot. I think we need to have a rationale that would basically say, if we were set up to fail,
I say this.
when this thing began. And for whatever reason, political or otherwise, we don't like it, they're just like,
Yep.
we can't succeed. We have not been able to succeed. And it's because the ordinance needs to be, not only gonna step up and do some stuff.
Do some stuff. And I think all that can go hand in hand, you know.
Mhm.
Here's the new recommendations to change the ordinance, and here's some things that we want to tackle as far as with the police department.
Mhm.
Although I think you're leaving out the fire department, not saying you can't. That can be a verbiage inside, you know, any type of safety. That's all you're talking about
Yeah,
now.
safety.
is safety.
Chief should
It's
be
not
involved.
policing, it's safety.
Yeah.
I guess when you said that before, what I heard was that, all we're gonna do is focus on how can you ride your bicycle safely, and I was like, it's not what compelled me to be part of this was not to be public safety Polly and put together
Yeah.
Instagram posts about how to be safe.
Reflective gear.
That's not gonna motivate me to be here. But we're talking about some bigger things. I mean, they may be small in and of themselves, but they each have a constituency that cares about it.
Yeah.
And when you start pulling people in, then you really have started that two-way conduit, which is what we've never created yet.
Right.
Said public safety policy.
And I'm sorry.
Can we get a little, that might stick, that might make it into the ordinance.
You know, and what, well, like I said, when I read all this stuff and still reading stuff, you know, community engagement, that's what we're trying to,
Yeah, no, I'm about
Yeah.
that.
versus if
It's
the police
all
or fire or
words,
planning,
yeah.
you know, any of that, it's just community engagement.
Yeah.
And all of that's community engagement. You know, some of it can be for the police, some of it can be for the fire department. I just think
Yeah, right.
we have enough to spread our wings, spread enough to keep it busy for another 2 years.
Well, there's a lot there. When you talked about, you know, the interest in having like an equity committee or what are they calling it? The discussions now,
Human rights.
the Human Rights Commission. I'm like, holy cow, that's really big.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah, they're different things. I'm like,
Yeah.
if I was intimidated by this, there's no way I want to do that. That feels like there's really, you know, so I think there's room for both
Oh, definitely.
and they are related, but
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's just like, we're gonna be related to traffic. We're
I
gonna be
yeah, I
related
think you
to,
want the Human Rights Commission to be a group all of it or something.
Yeah.
I really
And the
do.
more that we play with these ideas, the better we'll get at like, let's attach ourselves to that. Let's be in sync with that particular effort or issue or
Yes.
topic of that group. But other times it might go, we got too much.
Yeah, or
Or
we might not be in a particular alignment about something.
we
that they
might be agree,
focused
yeah,
on.
we might be agree with
Yeah.
that.
But we should definitely have a relationship. There should be some type of bridge building, that's for sure.
For me, I would say the vision, mission, and purpose should be reviewed. Even if we don't change anything, at least we say we're reviewing it. And I haven't seen any.
And that's
mission-
outside of the ordinance, right? I mean, there's nothing in there
I
about,
don't think so. Is it?
Well, there kind of is.
There's enough in there to look at.
Purpose is in the ordinance.
Purpose should be, yeah.
It's very limited.
Code. Most of it is city codes.
purpose, there you go, yeah.
Yes, his specific say, advise the Webster Groves Police Department and reflect the values and priorities of the Webster Groves community. To create a community where racial equity, diversity, and inclusion are lived values. Almost sound like my old past boss wrote that. A lot of words. But that's what I'm saying. Do we need to change that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, let's look at it. I mean, we're not-
Yeah.
I mean, it might as well be, I mean, if we're gonna overhaul and fix this whole thing here.
And really, this will be going on at the same time. We roll out here the ordinance that we want, changes we want to make.
Yeah.
Because then here are some programs that we want to put in for next year, whatever. And we don't have to do them all at one time, you know, like I said, there are resources out there already. Like I said, we buy a whole page of Kirkwood Times every month. And we can get a blurb in there about the size of that's what is that? Gee, 6x9 pad of paper, you know, just to see, here's something about golf carts. You know, Councilman Smith hates them, but, you know, but, you know, and then that's maybe after that's printed, okay, what can we do more to bring the community up to date? It might be having a session that at the rec center, thing, golf carts. Can you bring a golf cart in? Try to show the dangers, who knows? But I think that's
Nothing like this already exists with the community engagement. I mean, it seems like now that I'm thinking about it and flushing it out, it's a conduit for every committee to the community, right? If you write it broad enough, right? You talk traffic's having an issue and they can't get anybody to listen about it, we can be a part of doing that, right? Be the touch point for everything.
there's safety and people that walk at night. There's certain things you need to have, like the gear, you need to have a whistle, you need a baseball bat, and all that other stuff.
I just saw you walking down my street with the baseball bat.
Oh my God.
Getting guards.
Used to ride at 2 a.m.
Hockey
down
with
next
hockey
to
pads.
you. It's just like, no, I'm so wrong.
Baseball bat.
So let's talk about next steps, what we want to do before the meeting that we, because I think we've got to get some stuff done. So we do have constraints on what we can, like how large our group can be to do something. So I think our goal is that our next meeting would be great to have, let's say, a draft of what the revised ordinance could be. So if we had no more than 3 people, and you can't loop anybody else in via email, it's only 3, because 4 were a quorum, and then it's gotta be an official meeting, and it's gotta have an agenda and get posted. But,
Oh, yeah, it's a
Right?
quorum, yeah.
but if we wanted to have 3 people, I would say it would be great to have a lawyer in there. Great to bring it.
Yeah, I'm totally down.
But if we had 3 people that wanted to meet outside of this and say, here are the things I think our new ordinance needs to have in it, and here's all the stuff that can go away. Could we agree that that would be one task that 3 people would sign up for? All right. So who will those 3 people be? Wanna do it, John?
Well, we just got a new lawyer. I don't wanna,
You don't want to do
Overstep.
it, David, or you just don't care and tell us the question?
I am. Are we ready for that though? I hear Emerson talking about a very broad vision of I hear a community engagement board where people can bring all sorts of concerns about the community. I hear a public safety commission, and then I hear a police community engagement board talking about what the police are dealing with right now. So I don't know how I would change the ordinance at this point, because I don't know how I would rewrite the purpose. I know the purpose needs to be rewritten.
Yeah,
I think the next meeting actually needs to be a working group,
okay.
and we bring it here, and we actually do it here. To be perfectly honest with you, because that is a valid point about us being a little bit newer members.
Yeah.
And until we are really in agreement about how we are in alignment with one another, like, I don't know if we have the same values, right, around community police engagement, right? I don't know, I feel like me and Chief do, because I know Chief outside of this as far as his work. But like, you don't know my intentionality around, you know, policing and engagement and community and all of that good stuff. So I think it should be a working meeting, and I think it should be here. And I think if there's any redlining that goes on after that, then we can take, if you want to assign people to polish it up or whatever, I think that would be fine. That would be my recommendation.
Okay,
Can we like all commit to individually marking up the ordinance or making comments to the ordinance and then bringing that to the October meeting?
kind of like what we did when we
Yeah.
talked about purpose and we had a list bulletin of what we thought was important. And I almost printed that out in big letters for today, but I think,
And I have that
We
one
gotta-
saved.
yes.
Like I can.
Yeah.
Somehow look at it, yeah.
I could cheat and just grab.
Yeah, is that in the stuff you sent, or is that?
I did not resend it, because it seemed like I didn't wanna present it with new people as though, oh, we made some kind of
Plus, that's why I
decision.
just want to know how to get a copy.
Yes, what I'll do is I'll share it around and say, this is sort of where we got to. And we had, I still think we felt constrained by the existing ordinance, like it was still there and we were just coming up with something. I think we talked about, it's an elevator pitch. What are you gonna say to somebody
Yeah.
when you introduce yourself? And we still felt like we had to get all that stuff in there. And so we can really strip it down.
And this is the only commission that have those type of
Really?
Restrictions?
restrictions in their ordinance.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Only.
Not for
Your
long.
email was intended to free us.
That's how I saw it. Here we go.
They really couldn't do anything, that's the key.
Okay, so
The hands were
I
tied.
think that is our agenda then for our next meeting, because that'll take the whole meeting. And I'll send out the link. This email is here, but I'll kind of do sort of pre-meeting
Okay.
homework. And then, is there anything that we want to do, kind of fleshing out any of these ideas with your thoughts on it? at
I say if
all? Or
we could
I'll
get
just
through
write
the
them down.
ordinance.
We'll start with the ordinance, and I feel like that's gonna be, what is it, just ongoing work, that's gonna be static. So we'll continue to work on that, but that ordinance will probably have
But
to
we
be a
gotta get that
priority.
done.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would
But
think.
keep it up, because I feel like I like the idea about working through issues, right? And having constantly kind of a list of things we're working through and not getting so focused in on one thing and then going, okay, this isn't the thing, right? What do people need?
Well, if you were to type that up, I'd be willing to kind of like frame each of them up just as a
Yeah.
working document to.
I will absolutely type these up. One of the things I kind of got my hand slapped for is because my urge was to put these things in a Google Doc and say, oh, wow, then you can share. This is how business does it, right? We might add to it. And I was like, no, you can't do that because you're all, too many of you are participating in and you're not doing it. But I can take the notes that we've got right here and each of us can do whatever we like with them to help us process what we've heard and find something that maybe is an inspiration for something that we would want to begin working on.
Can we also add back to the table, something that, the gentleman sitting next to me brought up about coming up with a plan of how we process what will be the priorities for this group, like how we determine what we're gonna work on?
We're right.
Put the word framework, is that? like,
Yeah,
Yeah, we had
Here's
like a
the title
PCD
and first we kind of
process.
do this and then we look at those things and then we.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I
Is
could
that-
help.
yeah, that's what I heard. I
But
feel
I
like.
could frame those up.
The things I
Well,
wrote
that's what
down
you're saying
were,
you could do. You
Just
just
a
kinda.
draft, and
we
then we'll
have
up.
to prioritize, define the problem, gather resources and communicate or initiate that.
So John said
Jerry.
you could do that, Lexi, did you hear that?
Pardon?
John said you could do that.
You can do that. Well, what I'll
Just to
do then
draft
is
it,
I'm
just to get the.
I'm gonna
It's a
type
big
up the
chunk.
notes that are on these things. And I will share them. And we know that we're all gonna come and talk about the ordinance and we're gonna have it marked up or heck, you could have a completely fresh start.
There you go.
So
2-hour meeting.
6:30 on October 22nd. So our standard meeting is the fourth Tuesday.
Right.
Of the month.
This is my last comment. The parking in the business district, that's a lot of apples to buy.
Yeah, I really don't wanna deal with that either.
But if we work through, we might come up with something related to it that's,
Yeah.
you know, I think that we start there and we kind of, okay, define. What is the real problem? What is the source of this? What, is- you know?
And what did you just say? And we decided we can't take it out right now.
Right,
Right.
and you still.
And I think you're saying that, okay, here we found a safety issue where you're trying to make a left turn off of, what is that? Rock Hill Road onto Lockwood, and we can't see because there's a truck. You know, then you turn it over to the TAC commission. Well, the idea came from, although
Maybe
it,
that's
The
where you
thing
get
is,
the
already-
next day build up.
well, they already got, they already addressing that now, so
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, but, yeah.
All right,
I moved to adjourn. Too early, sorry.
you can do that. I feel like we've got a lot of positive energy in there. Is there anybody that wants to share something before Jill moves to adjourn?
No, I think we got a plan.
Well, welcome to brand new and newish and senior members,
Senior, that's better.
the wisdom group.
Yes.
Wisdom group.
And, you
This
know,
was
this is
good.
what, September, yeah, September or October, really.
Yeah.
I don't think we have to get it done in a month, 2 months, you know, because the holidays is coming up. We might not even meet November.
Yeah.
It might not meet December.
But you said
Oh my
January.
God, then
We've got
what
to,
are we
yeah.
gonna have to share with the council? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think the ordinance is gonna be that complicated for us
No,
to do
hard
also.
not, yeah.
Emerson, you're saying have something though to show that we've had some type of pivot. And so, you know, we're not.
We can.
Yeah.
Articulate that.
Yep. And you know, if there's a project up there that we want to tackle,
So far,
whatever
the
it costs,
intention, we can set some
some
intention.
resources.
My major.
He got plenty of money in his budget.
My major. Have these things.
And technically, we should always.
I moved to adjourn.
I second, third.
All in favor of adjournment?
Alright.
I've been up with trying.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Still not done.
So now I'm back to. Yes.
I was told from secondary through
What elementary school did you go to?
Cooper.
I don't remember in my life. Where was Cooper at?
Cooper
Was it
Elementary.
like, was it?
I was right on the